Which is good, everyone's been turning it off, which is good for the battery. Make sure your shoulders to the right shoulders to the left. And you guys may want to come in just a little bit, just so you're not so far away from it. Ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We are the MSBA Capstone team assigned to Virginia Tech Athletics, and we're super excited to present on some softball pitching optimization. So to start off, to introduce ourselves.
Hey, I'm Connor Smith. I did my undergrad here at Virginia Tech as a business information technology major with a concentration in operations and supply chain management. And my future plans include exploring opportunities in consulting or project management.
Hi, my name is Peyton Coleman. I also did my undergraduate here at Virginia Tech studying business IT, focusing on operations and supply chain management. And after completing this program, I'm going to work as a civilian logistics management specialist for the Air Force at Langley Air Force Base.
Hi, I'm Ashley Flake. I also completed my undergrad here at Virginia Tech. I majored in business IT, concentrating in cybersecurity. And following this program, I will be an AI and data associate at Axtria.
My name is Jack Vazina. I also did my undergrad here at Virginia Tech, majoring in finance. And after this program, I'll be joining Capital One as a business analyst.
Hi, I'm Connor Patrick. I also did my undergrad here at Virginia Tech, majoring in sports media and analytics. And following graduation, I will be joining Clark Construction Group as an engineer.
So to start off, going through a brief agenda, we're going to begin with introducing the project and providing the background, then going over our team's problem statement and the scope of our work. Then we're going to go through the objectives we set out to achieve, the data analysis we took to achieve those objectives, the solutions, methods, alternatives. This is going to be our final product we delivered. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with some recommendations, conclusions, and final thoughts. To begin, introducing this project, why this matters, how this project came to be, all that. We're going to start off with talking about the recent successes of the Virginia Tech softball team. Virginia Tech softball is a very high achieving program. They've been nationally competitive under Coach Pete. In Coach Pete's 8 years with the program as the head coach, they have been to the NCAA regional playoff tournament every single year. They've also been to super regionals multiple times and have multiple regular season ACC titles. Over the past decade, they've been one of Virginia Tech's highest performing athletic programs, and they want that to continue. However, there were some very key roster changes at the end of the 2025 season. This included losing their best pitcher and hitter due to graduation in the same year. Ace pitcher Emma Lemley, she had been with the team all 4 years of her college career, being on all ACC teams every single year since her freshman year. As the ace, she was pitching in the biggest games and innings and doing a lot for the team, so it was a very key loss. Additionally, on the other side of the field was star slugger Corey McMillan. She, to put it bluntly, was one of the best hitters this program has ever seen. So much so, she actually won ACC Player of the Year in 2025. So these were two huge losses. However, Virginia Tech softball is not trying to rebuild. They still have a very strong roster. They're just trying to optimize it. The rotations, the lineups are still very good. They just want to get the absolute most out of it, which is where the project starts. Back on sponsor day, many months ago, back in September, October, we were given a very broad goal of how can we use data to help the team win more games. Very broad. We were even given some very open-ended analytical approaches we could use. These were things like simulating lineups, forecasting player performance, looking at our teams and opponents' data, stuff like that. Again, still very open-ended goals. However, the end goal was always clear in mind, and that was how can Virginia Tech softball best compete for a national championship? Finding small improvements, translating those into wins, and increasing the program's success. So with all this background in mind and how this project came to be, I'm going to pass it off to Ashley, who's going to go into our team's project and our scope of work.
Thank you, Jack. The core problem our project aims to solve is how can Virginia Tech softball optimize its pitching rotation to give up less runs and win more games? This problem statement evolved along with the scope of our project. the beginning, our scope was very broad. Our goal was to use analytics to improve Virginia Tech softball performance. We investigated multiple areas of the game, such as defense, offense, as well as individual player performance. It was also up to us to explore the vast amounts of available data and individual player statistics. Next, we aimed to narrow our scope. We narrowed our scope after many conversations with the VT athletics staff and as well as the softball coaching staff. It was determined that we would be most impactful looking into pitching analytics, and the Virginia Tech athletics staff would look into the hitting analysis portion of the game. After we aimed to refine our scope focused on optimizing pitcher rotation across a weekend series rather than just one single game. Our goal was to make sure pitchers were properly rested, utilized, and positioned in the lineup in order to gain those marginal advantages over an entire weekend series rather than just one single game. Next, I'll pass it to Pete to talk about our final project scope.
Thanks, Ashley. So after going through that long iterative discovery process, working with the athletics team and landing on using our pitching staff over a weekend series to model their fatigue and optimize their lineups to increase that win probability, we next focused on how to best get that information across to the coaches. So one challenge is that there is no technology allowed to be used in the dugout per NCAA Division I softball rules. And so we decided to combat this by focusing on a dynamic Excel workbook that the coaches could use as a scouting tool prior to the game and throughout the series outside of the dugout. And so this tool is going to model the win probability as well as fatigue throughout the series and how that impacts as the game progresses. So next, I'll cover a few of the objectives of our workbook. First, we wanted to mention that this is a decision tool to use for the coaches for scouting purposes. And so we wanted to make sure that this was something that was going to be usable. So instead of providing them with a Python script that would have required a large technical background to use, we wanted to make sure that we used an protected Excel workbook where they had minimal inputs that could still clearly see the effects of what they were doing. Next, we needed to make sure that our workbook was accurate. So we did this by training and validating it based on 6 years of prior Virginia Tech and NCAA softball seasons. Moving on, we also needed to make sure that our workbook was repeatable. And so as the series moved on, there was new stats available, not only for our pitchers, but also for our opponents that we faced each week. So we had to constantly update our model to make sure that it had the most up-to-date information. And finally, we needed to make sure that our model was unique. There's such an influx of data available to coaches in different scouting platforms as well as metrics that can be used. So we wanted to make sure that our model correctly showed off what metrics were going to be important for them and to make it meaningful for them to be able to use. Now Connor's going to dive a little bit deeper into the data that we collected for this project.
Thanks, Peyton. So in order to start to build our model, we first had to collect a bunch of data. Our two main sources for this were Massey ratings and 643 charts. Massey ratings gave us advanced team level stats such as offensive rating, home field advantage metrics, and power ratings. Massey ratings are useful because it adjusts for strength of schedule, so you're not really just looking at a raw win-loss record for a team. And then for 643 charts, this gave us player stats such as WOBA, batting average, walk rate, strikeout rate, batter space, and batter space windows over 3 days, 7 days, and 14 days. And then from there, we did a regression on those same stats in order to see what was the most indicative of pitcher success. And then after that, we can get into the model training. So in order to start it off, we initially had to collect the 6,000 plus rows of game-by-game data across all ACC games from 2021 and on. And then from that, we created a relationship between pitcher success and fatigue. Up next, we incorporated the Virginia Tech statistics into the model. And then over the course of the 2026 season, those stats were more heavily weighted as that was most reflective of how good the pitchers currently were. And then from there, we had to update our model weekly with a Python model. And this Python model incorporates fatigue and then also the new updated Virginia Tech pitcher stats. And then from there, we got coefficients based on each of the different pitchers. And these coefficients were different because each pitcher deals with fatigue in a different way. Now I'll pass it off to Connor Patrick to go into the most important part of our project, the workbook.
Thank you, Connor Smith. So the exciting part, the thing that we've worked on the hardest, our Excel workbook. This was given to the coaching staff before every series, tournament, and individual game since mid-March. This is designed to let them have a scouting tool to optimize the pitching rotation with fatigue baked into it. Now hopping into how it works. First off, in the top left corner is the date, the opponent, and the Massey offensive rating of that opponent. So today we'll be looking at the Syracuse workbook that we gave at the beginning of May. This is the Friday tab, obviously, and then the Massey rating of 8.96 is actually bottom of the ACC. However, nationally, it's right above the average. So moving into the functionality of it, on the right side, we have the baked-in numbers of how many batters it takes on average for each of our pitchers to face through 7 innings. So if Emma Mazarin is going to complete 7 innings, we estimate an average of 32 batters she would have to face to complete the entire game. Now on the left side, as the coaches open up the workbook, those numbers are already in there for them to see the expected earned runs through a complete start for those players. Those yellow cells, however, are fully customizable to see what batters face they want to see during the game, and the blue cells automatically update to see the expected earned runs. Now moving into the middle columns, on the left side we have the baseline expected earned runs. This is the number per 7 innings if they were to complete the entire game from the VT data analytics simulation, pitch-by-pitch simulation model. A completely separate model, however, we work hand in hand with them to produce a geomean, which is on the right side of this graphic, and this is the average between their model and our model to see how they complement each other and what the expected earned runs would be at that batter's face metric set in there by the coaches. Now I'll pass it on to Peyton to talk about the Saturday tab in our workbook.
Thank you, Connor. So as we discussed, the model is meant to show how fatigue is presented throughout a weekend series. So the main difference that you can see is on the left-hand side of our new Saturday model. It has a yellow input for the coaches to put the actual number of batters faced on Friday, once they know it as they move throughout the series, and then the predicted number of batters that they expect to face on Saturday. So moving on, we have a new tab on our workbook. So on the right-hand side, it shows the increase in the expected runs based on that fatigue incorporated. So for example, if a pitcher was to face batters on Friday and Saturday, then they would be expected to give up more runs on Saturday due to that fatigue. And then right to the right of the expected increase is our win probability metric. And this shows based on that expected increase in the earned runs, how much of a decrease it'll be in our win probability. And this is truly what's going to be most important to a coach as they're looking at the workbook. So next we can deep dive into an example. So our example shows one of our ace pitchers, Emma Mazarin, and it shows that if she were to face 32 batters on Friday, so if she were to pitch a full game, and then she's expected to pitch another full game on Saturday, so facing another 32 batters, she would have an expected earned runs against her of 2.87. But then if you look on the right-hand side, you can see that this is 0.38 higher than if she had not faced any batters on Friday. So if she had 0 batters faced in that top yellow cell and then 32 in the bottom. But because she did pitch on Friday, she now has fatigue, which then moves on to have a negative 1.07 decrease in the overall win probability. So again, this is what's going to be really important for coaches to look at. And now Jack is going to dive a little bit deeper into how we calculated that win probability.
Thank you, Peyton. So to talk more about this win probability cell, you saw how that gets calculated, how we got that negative 1.07%. We actually built a win probability model. And to start off, the way it works, we first look at Massey power ratings of the teams. Once again, Massey is a database showing a lot of team statistics. For this specific model, we really care about the power rating of a team, which is essentially how good is that team. This allows us to adjust win probability per opponent. So what we would do is we would take where Virginia Tech and their power rating is, and then look at whatever specific opponent they're playing and their power rating. We would then plot these on a normal distribution curve with all 300 plus NCAA Division I softball teams. We'll show an example of this in a second. Then, once these are plotted on that curve, we would look at the difference between Virginia Tech and the opponent on that curve, and that difference is what we would use as our expected margin of victory metric, which then would be combined with other factors, some like you saw in the workbook, like batters faced and increase in earned runs, and others like home field advantage. Home field advantage is another Massey statistic that Just shows how good teams are at home, as some teams are better at home than others. So, I know that was a lot, but to visualize it, this right here is that plotted normal curve. This is all 308 NCAA Division I softball teams, plotted by their massive power rating. That's on the x-axis on the bottom here. The further right we go, it means the stronger the team is. As you can see, Virginia Tech sitting at a 14.78, very far to the right, showing how strong of a team they are. And when talking about that difference earlier in that expected margin of victory, to show some examples, if we were to play an Oklahoma, who, for those who don't know, is probably the most successful softball program over the past 5 years, winning multiple national championships. If we were to play a team like that, we would take Virginia Tech's point, find Oklahoma's point to the right, and use that difference as our expected margin of victory metric. And on the other hand, if we were to play a Syracuse, who is one of the weaker teams in the ACC, we would take Virginia Tech's point, find Syracuse's point to the left, and use that as our expected margin of victory metric. And the reason for doing all this and going into so much depth is we found win probability to be a very important metric for the coaches. It's something they can look at and see and deem how important is a decision in terms of winning or losing the game, which ultimately is the end goal. So now that you understand what it is, what goes into it, why we did it, I'm gonna pass it off to Ashley, who's gonna go into the final tab of our typical weekend series workbook.
Thank you, Jack. Going back to the Sunday tab, or going back to the workbook, this is our Sunday tab, which is similar to the Friday and Saturday tabs with the addition of Sunday batter space input data. Here we have each of the pitchers and 3 days of their batter space input data with the expected earned runs on Sunday to the right. Next, we have an example from Sunday for Emma Mazaron pitching. In this example, she pitched on Friday and Saturday, so the model applies fatigue on Sunday. This fatigue applies 0.56 expected earned runs increase and a negative 1.66% win probability decrease. If Emma Mazaron were to not pitch on Friday and Saturday and only pitch on Sunday, this model would apply no fatigue, so there would be no increase or decrease in expected runs or win probability. Additionally, win probability is based upon opponent, since giving up a run against a weaker team means less than giving up a run to a stronger one. In this example, the opponent is Syracuse, one of the weaker teams in the ACC. So if we were to play a stronger team, a 0.56 expected run increase would result in a higher win probability decrease. Next, we have the Sunday Optimizer tab. This tab in the workbook ranks 300 possible pitching lineup scenarios, and based on expected runs, generates the top 25. In this specific example, on this Sunday game, we have the top ranked scenario is Bree Carrico pitching 7 innings with 3.2 expected runs, and the second scenario is Bree Carrico pitching for 5 innings, and Emma Mazaron pitching for the final 2 with 3.34 expected runs. This optimizer also re-ranks these scenarios based on the batter space input data. So if Bree Carrico were to pitch more on Friday and Saturday, this optimizer would re-rank these scenarios involving Carrico and push them further down in the ranks. Next, I'll pass it off to Connor to talk about our ACC workbook.
Thank you, Ashley. So this is the workbook that we use for the ACC tournament, and then also updated it for the regional tournament. This really is the culmination of our entire project, as many of the models and tools we use throughout our project is incorporated here. Up next, you can see that an issue we were facing for the ACC tournament is that there's a different team you play every day. In a normal weekend series, you just play the same team 3 days in a row. But for a tournament style bracket, you just play a different team every single day. So it's really unpredictable for the coaches to know who to game plan for. This makes it easy by having a drop down where you can just select a team. So if you see Virginia selected as an example, you can see if Virginia is selected as an example, you can see the expected earned runs, baseline earned runs, and the GM mean. And then if you switch this to Pitt, you can see that the numbers automatically change. It's more easy for the coaches. Pitt here has all lower numbers across the board because they're a much inferior team than UVA, so these numbers make sense. Now I'll get into the tournament optimizer. So this is very similar to the Sunday optimizer that Ashley just mentioned, except it helps teams map out the entire optimization for an entire tournament, and it includes different opponents. On the bottom, you see a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday batter they tap. This is very similar to the normal workbook where you can just incorporate the batter space and they can plug that in, and then the optimizer is adjusted accordingly. Now I'll pass it off to Connor Patrick to get into how the model is used.
Thank you, Connor Smith. So part of the really exciting part and really cool part of this project is that we actually got to see the model in use since March. So during the regular season, it was utilized in 28 games. The team had a 20 and 8 record throughout those games, and was also utilized in 6 ACC series. Moving on, they qualified for the ACC tournament where they secured wins over Duke and UVA in the quarterfinals and semifinals, reaching the first ACC championship game since 2012 against Florida State, only losing by 1 run, unfortunately. However, that also qualified them for the NCAA tournament, where they got assigned to the Baton Rouge Regional and made the regional final against LSU before ultimately falling and the season coming to an end. Now we'll jump into how accurate was the model. The model was extremely accurate for sport, which has a lot of variability. We saw a 1.17 mean absolute error, so plus or minus, on average, our model was within 1.17 runs per every prediction. The VT Data Analytics team assigned us the challenge of hopefully being within 50% within 1 run. We minorly exceeded that by 51.2%. However, they also assigned us with 75% for within 2 runs, and the model performed exceptionally well, being within 85.4 of 2 runs per prediction. So that really exciting results, and hope the model can continue to be used in the future. And I'll pass it off to Peyton for recommendations and conclusions.
Thank you, Connor. So just a few final thoughts as we're wrapping up the project. First, we want to note that even small advantages can build up over time to make a major impact throughout the season. So for an example, in a 50-game season, if you just have a 0.2 increase in win probability per game, that can lead to 1 additional win, which can have a huge impact in rankings, especially as you near the end of the season. Next, we also want to note that analytics aren't everything, especially in a sport that has so many different factors that flow into it. So we just provided this as a tool that can be combined with the coach's intuition as well as what they're observing in game to make the best possible decision. And finally, improving this, using the workbook to improve their win probability throughout 1 season can lead to major impacts as this softball program continues throughout. So for example, if they were able, this year they finished number 17 in the NCAA, whereas the top 16 seeds get to host a regional tournament. So if they had been just 1 seed higher up in the ranking, they not only would have had that home field advantage in a tournament, but they also would have been able to increase their ticket revenue for sales of those games, as well as recruit top talent for seasons to come. So we hope that in the future, they're able to continue using analytics to improve their performance of an already great team. So finally, we just want to give a thanks to some of the people that helped us along the way of this project. We have Scott, Nick, and Anae from the Virginia Tech Athletics Analytics team, as well as Megan from the softball coaching and support staff, and then Jay Winkler from our MSBA side, and Dr. Barbara Fraticelli as our faculty advisor. So thank you all for taking the time today to listen to our presentation, and we'd like to open up for any questions.
UVA sucks. I didn't see that before.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I
Yeah.
missed that totally. I probably couldn't see it from home, so.
For Easter eggs.
And as somebody that grew up in West Virginia, highlighting that Pitt is a less challenging opponent was also very nice for me.
Great job on the voiceovers. Watch your hand motions. A couple of you have a lot of tendency to use your hands a lot, so just so it doesn't become distracting. I mean, some movement is fine and acceptable, but just too much is distracting. So just be cautious of that. Great job.
Really good. I've got a couple of little things. One thing though that I feel like you all need to be very aware of is a lot of they. Not, you'll be presenting to them.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's question mark is will any of the coaching staff be there?
I emailed Scott, he said he doesn't know, so.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Pete, who knows? Pitching coach's name again?
Josh.
Josh. Great, Josh, you can be there. Again, but you're exactly correct. Even, I mean, if the coaching staff is there, it's definitely you, not they.
Mhm.
Even with Nick and Anae and Scott there, I think it's still a you, or for the softball team. But they, it's kind of a third person-y kind of thing, them will them as us, as a group here, so just be careful of that. I wrote that down as well.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, you all are so comfortable up there. It's like makes me super happy. Shannon's point about the hands, just be careful. I almost tap dance whenever I present sometimes. I get so excited, and it's just because you all care. I mean, I think you all like working on this project, which is good. But where it is appropriate, there are times where Connor, you pointed to, that's great. So, just don't let it take out your personality, because I see everybody's personality come out of this presentation. It's very refreshing, very good.
No, I agree. Biggest things I think you need to work on as a generalization is consistency of your volume. It is kind of different, like, well, I'll use between Jack and Ashley, you all change a lot, or you all tend to switch to each other. Jack, your volume is a little bit louder than yours, Ashley, so if you can bring it up, and I don't know that you need to bring it down, Jack, but if you can bring it up just a little bit, that'd be good. Jack, watch you talking with your hands. You circle a lot with your hands, so be mindful of that one. And I did wonder, when you're doing some of the explanation, how much of it is stuff that they already know and that you don't necessarily need to talk through in your presentation? Not that you need to trim time. What were you at, 20 or 22?
They were at 23.
23. Yeah, I don't know that you need to per se, but sometimes I wonder if it's stuff that's just, that if you are talking about points that they already know, that might be better for an audience that doesn't already know some of these things. Not that you need to change anything, just something that came to mind for me. Oh, and no last names on the handoff. You all don't need to say,
Okay.
you all don't need to do last names. I think you're fine. Just say, now I'm gonna pass it on to Connor. Connor to Connor. Cause that threw me off a little bit. I think that's all I had though for overall or general. Really nice job.
Okay.
Nice, Jay.
That's good. Let's just go slide by slide
I didn't have anything until 4.
and say, Connor Smith, you just need to slow down. Okay. Take a breath. I mean, especially, you probably feel yourself going fast,
Yeah,
and
I can work on that.
when you feel it, because we don't know that a pause is or is not supposed to be there. Stop, take a breath, and go.
So I had something on slide 4 and the voiceover. Anything before that for anybody? On slide 4, you said multiple times. Just to catch, I can't remember who. I didn't write down who was presenting. Is that you, Jack? Yeah, just watch on the video. Things to catch. I think what happens is you're super passionate about this, and it feels so conversational to you. So just watch some of those things when you're presenting.
And I wrote down page 6 for this comment, but it might have been here. Jack, you have the, okay, so it's probably a 4, 5, 6. When you talk about the key roster changes, you make a comment about rebuilding. And you say, you're not rebuilding, you're reloading, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's the common sports phrase for, in college where you have to, people come and go all the time. This team does not need to rebuild, it just needs to reload. I think that'd be a good one to use. So next comment for folks.
None?
I don't have anything until 14, but.
I got one in 9. It was in the voiceover. Peyton, are you doing this one? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I need to write down the names on the slides. You had said something about something being small, and I thought it might be better to say incremental instead of small. Just check your script there. Because I think incremental was more of the descriptor that maybe you're going for, but if I'm wrong, you can ignore that one. It just felt like that would make more sense. They don't have anything till 19. You said you had 14?
I think, is this 14? So it's just it's still to the overlay over the images is not opaque enough.
To make it more see-through or less?
Less, sorry, yeah, I was literally gonna Google which way I'm supposed to say opaque, but anyway, it's not, it's too, I can see through it too, easily. It's confusing my eyes with all the stripes and everything going on. I love the layout, I love the slide.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking that, Pete. Like, I was like, I'm gonna Google opaque.
I had something on 19 on the voiceover. Anything before that? I like how you did that one, the other side too. The things, but on this one, you'd referenced a bunch of data.
Yep.
So I would just be more specific.
You said collect
Yeah.
a bunch of data.
Yeah.
Let's be more specific about that.
We're nitpicking at this point, which is a good thing. So when we're picking up on like these nuanced things, it's a good thing. Not everything till 30.
So on the next one, yeah, there's only one, so we try to stay away from one bullet point. I just don't know, cause you have, it's actually interesting, cause you go 1, 2, 3, you have 1 bullet point, 2 bullet point, 3 bullet points. I don't know the best way around this.
Do you think like 2, 2, 2 would be the best?
I'd like to see another bullet point or no bullet on the first one. But if
Yeah.
you do no bullet on the first one, you're gonna have to do no bullets on the rest, which isn't gonna work.
Well, how about then just, cause you go 2020 to 2025 for the first bullet, right, to get to 6,000 game plus? So say 2020 to 2025, 6,000, and then second bullet, 6,000.
Yeah, I like that.
And then it's more balanced.
Yep. And it's okay that you have a third bullet point. You'll have 2, 2, 3, that's completely fine. It was just, the pattern was interesting to me. And then I don't have anything until 25. I don't know about anybody else.
30.
So on this one, also your numbering, I'm starting to notice your slide numbering. I don't know how big a deal it is, but it jumps a lot. So you went from 22 to 25.
It's because of your animations.
Oh.
Oh, I think I'm just scrolling. it quick.
Oh, okay,
Wait,
okay,
wait,
never mind. Forget that, it's
Okay.
right.
Just say
This screenshot is really blurry.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I think when you blur it out, the blur behind it searching for the word, but it's distracting for me. Is that what you're trying to say?
The screenshot itself, the text is, it looks
Okay.
low resolution. To
Like
me.
inside the navy.
Yeah, inside the menu, yeah.
Okay.
The blur, I wasn't really commenting on the background blur. But that's just, yeah,
Okay.
it looks low resolution.
Yeah, we can get a new screenshot for that, because we were just pulling from the same, we could just go in the Excel workbook and read it.
Yeah. That was all I had.
I didn't have anything till 30. On this one, I was just trying to remember, because you had said, as we discussed, and I was trying to remember, so it might be, if you say that, Jake may have done on that. I think it's different from as you can see, maybe you don't even need to say that, yeah. Yeah. I think that's it, yeah. I don't have anything till 42, it was
Okay,
as you can see.
41. Okay, is the color of the numbers, is the 2 on normal, is it think it could be maroon.
That's a good vision.
No,
Jay, we had a question for you.
not according to my
Can you go back
optometrist.
to the, can you go back to the geomine slide? Jay, so you know, like, their entire binder is based off the geomine number.
Right.
We don't mention that in the presentation. We didn't wanna like bring it up and then just be like, there's a 40-page binder that includes these numbers and then not mention it again. Do you think that's worth mentioning, or, I don't know?
I mean, you hit it here, and in the discussion about it, it's the geometric mean between the two.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like it's sufficient, but
Yeah.
but it's true that number or that series of numbers is the foundation
Yeah.
for what they take in to process on their side. But you're really just talking about your side.
Yeah,
So I think it's okay not to focus
Okay.
on why that's so important to them.
thank you.
And I think for me, just, what do you have, anybody have anything next? I just, and the thing that we didn't do for you that we've been forcing on the other teams is closing the laptop down so you can't really see it. So Ashley, I think at one point you started looking at the screen and it slowed you down because you were trying to figure out where you were, okay? And that's where that crutch of having it open is really a bad crutch because it slows you down and it makes you less smooth. Just go with your story. And yours, for a bunch of you, it's harder because you're just citing very specific statistics on things. But having it closed down is the way to go. Okay.
And this was only your second run through.
Yeah. And then there are a few that you're going through on Connor Smith on like page 55. You kind of went to the up next. You can see that, and you really want to go. For this example, we're using UVA, and then so how we change it from pit there. But you don't want to say you can see how it changes. The numbers change based upon going from team to team based upon the strength, etc. that comes through there. But just avoiding the you can see, so that you have a lot of things on the screen, so you want to be specific about where you want my eyes to go, okay? Other than that, I didn't have anything else.
I didn't
Yeah.
either.
Good.
Awesome job.
Yeah, nice job.
I really liked some of the changes that got made. Very good.
Just some practice and fine tuning, and we'll see you all again on Wednesday.
Yes.
On page